Well, let's go to our guest now in Khartoum. I'm joined by Rabie Abdul Atti Obeid. He's a senior member of the ruling National Congress Party. Also with us is Sudan's former State Minister of Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament, Samani al-Wasila al-Samani. And in Vancouver is author and activist Amir Ahmad Nasr. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Amir Ahmad Nasr, can I begin with you? Sir, for you, is this about bread prices or is it about something far bigger?
Imran, thank you for having me on the show. Prices have been going up steadily for basic necessities in Sudan over the past few years. This is not new. The prices have been going up. Living has been harder and harder over the past few years. And what resulted in this, finally, this outpouring of anger, of resentment, of a desire for a new change in Sudan, are things that have been building up for the last 30 years. For the last 30 years, this government has been at war with the people of Sudan, sadly and unfortunately. It has been at war with the people of South Sudan, the people of Darfur, where ethnic cleansing has happened, the people of North Sudan, the Nubians who are facing construction of the dams, and also people in the East. And now the battle has finally arrived to the center of the power of the regime, the stronghold. This is the battle of Khartoum. What's most impressive is people's demands saying that this is peaceful, silmiya, silmiya, peaceful, peaceful. And yet they're getting shot at in broad daylight with snipers. And the evidence is in video footage with x-rays from Sudanese doctors showing bullets in people's heads, bullets in people's necks, and bullets in their chests. This is deliberate targeted killing. The Sudanese the different political parties have come together, the majority of them saying that Omar al Bashir can have a constitutional amendment to rule again and to be president again, to run for so-called elections that have no legitimacy and have no fairness, that are completely rigged. For them to do this is basically saying we want him to rule again, forever. Until when? Until when is this going to happen? Things are unbearable. To be frank, Imran, I got up at 4 a.m. today for this interview. I don't want to be here. I have no interest in being on this show. But the situation has become so unbearable for family that we can no longer ignore politics. We can no longer ignore business as usual. The Titanic is sinking.
Right.
And we need to do something.
Let's ask the man from the ruling party, Rabie Abdul Atti. Is this not merely about fuel shortages or fuel subsidies and bread prices and the cost of living? Has this been a 30-year build-up? Has it been a 30-year-long problem?
Actually, my dear, this crisis happening after the year 2011, and this is due to the loss of the revenue of petrol after secession of the South. But in the years from 2000 up to 2011, the people of Sudan actually, they lived and they actually witnessed a prosperity and luxurious life. As Sudan at that time, from the year 2000 up to the year 2011, we received a lot of people from Egypt, from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, even from Asia, working in Sudan as expatriates. But really now we are in need of actually to reconstruction of the government and to implement austerity plan so that to remove all the obstacles on all the problems that facing Sudan people at this area, because now Sudan actually is a rich country, but we need even the opposition and the government to sit together and to exchange opinions to see what is the proper policy for resolving all the problems now facing and confronting Sudanese people.
If it's a rich country, doesn't that mean that the ruling party and the government is corrupt? Because that money, it's not going to the people.
No, actually, during the war between South and North, and during the war that in Darfur, as I can confirm that now the war in Darfur is now have no, any effect, because all refugees and all internal displaced people, they now they are coming to live their normal life in Darfur. And the South also, actually, after session of the South, now the war is stopped. And I think now peace is all over the country. But we are in need to reorganize the priorities, because we have achieved a lot of projects. But you know, this needs again to discuss how to set the priorities. What is number one? What is number two? What is number three? And how to administer the resources of Sudan. Because now we are producing more than 200 tons of gold, and we have a lot of borders, and these borders not controlled by the government, and a lot of smuggling. I think that now the government is taking a lot of steps and a lot of procedures, so
if that's the long-term plan,
these crises which you are witnessing now will be removed in a very short period of time.
Okay, so you have a long-term plan, but looking at the immediate reaction, Rabie, to the protests, we have dozens of people shot dead, opposition leaders arrested, social media choked, the internet choked. Is that a sign of a strong or a weak government?
I don't think that, you know, actually there is a crisis. Actually, we have a problem in, you know, but a lot of the majority of problems now solved. Now you can find bread everywhere. The crisis of bread now and the shortage of bread is have no presence now. And the shortage of benzene now, there is no shortage of benzene, as now benzene is available in all benzene stations. And I think now, after a very short period of time, as promised by the government and promised by finance minister and all the ministers of the economic sector, in a very short period of time, all these problems will be solved. And I don't think that the cabinet and the executive ministers, as well as NCP leaders, will fail to solve this problem in a very short period of time.
Let me ask Amir Ahmed Nasr. So we have President Omar al Bashir ordering an investigation into what happened, what led to those people being killed, right? And we also have the parliament passing its 2019 fiscal budget and saying we're going to make money available for the people so that people can have a decent quality standard of living and they can live with dignity. Why aren't you willing to give them the chance to try and implement this?
President Omar al Bashir just a few days ago was speaking to the chiefs of police in Sudan. And he used the word qasas. And basically, he is using verses from the Quran to try to justify and saying that the killing of protesters is justified if you're trying to maintain stability, because then the stability will save the lives of many, many people. Meaning, killing the protesters is okay as long as we want to maintain control and stability. So he's giving license to the police chiefs to go out and to basically fire and kill innocent protesters. This is unacceptable. We can have dialogue, we can have negotiations, we can talk. I'm a member of the youth. I'm not a member of any political party. I have no interest in being a member of any political party. I just want to know that the country can continue and family can stop suffering needlessly. So the fact that he's justifying the killing of protesters, this is not an encouraging sign. Secondly, regarding the budget, we have heard these promises again and again in the past, every time, and nothing has improved. I will concede the point that the spokesperson of the government, the official spokesperson, just now made about 2011, the separation of South Sudan and how all revenues declined. Sure, but that is a very easy excuse and convenient excuse to say that corruption has nothing to do with it, and the fact that the majority of the budget of the country goes towards state security services, military, private security, police, to simply keep the loyalty of those systems of oppression still continue. However, that is not happening, and there are defections going on because people are upset in the military, they're angry in the police because they're saying this is not right. We should not kill our own brothers and sisters. This is not right. This is wrong.
Okay, and just for some housekeeping here, Al-Samani Al-Wasila unfortunately had an audio issue, so We don't have him for the moment, and that's why you haven't heard from him, and I haven't gone to him for the moment. So just so you gentlemen know that that is the case. Let me go to Rabie Abdul Atti. So we have lawmakers who voted on that amendment of an article in the Constitution to allow Omar al Bashir to stand again so he can have another term. Let me first ask you, sir, did you vote for that to happen, for your president to run for another term? And if so, why?
You know, actually, the election which will be carried out in the year 2020 is an election which should witness entire transparency and credibility. And I think that National Congress Party is having a right to nominate Omar al Bashir or to nominate X or Z or Y. But also, at the same time, other political parties, they have a right also to nominate who is suitable to actually lead and to rule the country for the coming period. And this is actually, it is freedom. And I don't think that, there is any, objection for other political parties to nominate whomsoever they want to rule the country.
You are nominating the man who's been in charge for 29 years to run for longer. Certainly. But what the point is, they can nominate whoever they want to.
But National Congress.
You want your president, who's been running the country for 29 years, to run for another term. You have to change the constitution in order to do that. While there are people on the street saying he should step down, isn't it time he makes way for other people?
You know, actually, the people in the streets that they are now they are now protesting and making demonstrations. Those people, they are not representing the majority of Sudanese people. As you know that now, the government of national unity and the government of one accord now is including more than 30 political parties in addition to some groups that lifting arms before. And I don't think that those people who are demonstrating, they can change the regime or they can change the government, because the government, we have only actually acknowledged the way of changing and toppling of the government.
But, okay.
This is due to the
ballot
boxes and transparent election.
And I don't mean to question your system.
At any time.
Certainly, I don't mean to question your system or your democratic system, but it does seem like a contradiction to me. If you tell me at the beginning that the people have a legitimate right to protest against rising prices, against bread, against fuel shortages, you tell me they have a right to do so and we need to reform the government because the people have a legitimate right to protest. And then a few minutes later, you tell me these people don't represent the majority of Sudanese people. So who are these people then?
Yes, it is legal for the people to protest and to show their opinion, but it is not acceptable for the people to come and to, make blockings in the streets and to lit fire in the public institutions and to actually to make a lot of robbery for the property of the people. This is actually mixed together, and it is allowed for the political parties and for all people to express their opinion, political opinion, in their premises and according to the law. And I don't think that destruction is acceptable by the only making demonstrations and doing demonstrations to harm people and Sudanese people and their property.
Justified?
I don't think that our constitution is actually not accepting the public opinion and not accepting the other opinion. But actually, we don't accept any destruction of the institutions, whether these institutions belonging to the private sector or the public sector.
Those people who were killed, was it justified, sir?
No, there is no justification actually to use power, to use, violence against the protesters. But I think that, the Minister of Interior and also the Justice Minister also formed actually a committee to investigate who killed the protesters and why they have been killed and who harmed the people and who lit fire in the property of the public sector or the private sector. And we are now waiting for the result of this investigation according to the committees formed.
Amir Ahmed Nasr, I want to ask you a big picture question. And based on our personal relationship as well, because the first time I interviewed you was quite a long time ago, and at that time we were both, I think, sitting in Washington, D.C., and at that time the view from the American side and generally from the Western side of Omar al Bashir was to highlight that this was a man who was wanted by the ICC for genocide charges, crimes against humanity charges. There was a Free Darfur movement, right? And generally, Sudan was seen by the West as a kind of pariah state. That's changed over the years. Sudan has kind of come in from the cold. The US dropped their 3 decades of sanctions very recently. Al-Bashir is doing business with the Europeans on counterterrorism, on refugees, the United States and Europeans and elsewhere. Doesn't that tell you that it takes for something massive for Western powers to pressure Sudan to change anything right now? Because Sudan is on side. It's not the Sudan of 7 or 8 years ago.
Absolutely, Imran. The Sudan of 7 or 8 years ago, the issue of Darfur was very much taking a lot of the attention, and the oppression of the people in Khartoum wasn't highlighted because, frankly, we are oppressed, but we weren't getting killed and shot at in broad daylight so regularly. This has happened now too often in Khartoum. This uprising started in Atbara. It spread to other cities and towns. And now the people of Sudan are united, demanding basic dignity, basic rights, equal citizenship. And we have seen the incompetence of this government. The foreign powers in the region need to understand that this time is very different because this time it's in Khartoum and it's existential. We're at a crossroads. We can either go the direction of Tunisia or we can go the direction of Libya or even worse, Syria. And frankly, and I think even the government spokesperson will agree with me, that nobody wants this. Nobody wants Sudan to become like Syria. Nobody wants Sudan to become like Yemen. But this is not up to the people. The people don't have an option. If they go to the ATM, there's no cash. And if there is cash in the ATM, the money and the currency is worth less and less. And even if the money is enough, when you want to go to the shops to buy something, there isn't even basic necessities, not even bread. This is not just because of sanctions. This is not just because of the separation of the South. Those are factors. True, I admit that. We must agree on that. However, the corruption is a huge issue. The majority of the state budget goes to security and military and police to maintain loyalty. And now there is not enough money to maintain the loyalty of the system. So we are at a crisis point. And therefore, the people in Turkey, the Turkish government, the European Union, the United States, they need to understand, do you want to spend billions and billions of dollars later down the line when we have a bigger mess and a bigger catastrophe like Syria or Libya? Or do you want to intervene now to make sure that we have a transitional government so that we can restructure, so that we can actually have a better economy and have more political freedoms that can create the stability for us to thrive? We are a rich country with resources. We have a lot of rich resources. We have a lot of talented, brilliant, smart people who love the country, who want to contribute and make it better. Right. But we cannot do this as long as this regime is in power. So the EU, the United Nations, Turkey, the United States, they need to understand this is an important moment to put pressure and intervene, because the choice is not up to the uprising, which is silmiya, peaceful. The choice is up to the government. And I really hope the government does something responsible, because otherwise we really could go the direction of Libya when Tunisia is a possibility.
Understood.
And in our history, we have had 2 uprisings that succeeded, and therefore, hopefully, in due time, the pressure is building up. This one can succeed peacefully.
Gentlemen, I've got to wrap, but I do appreciate you all taking the time to join us here on the Newsmakers. I thank you sincerely, Rabie, Abdul, Atti, and Amir, Ahmad, Nasr. Thanks again.